Karl Smith. Welcome to the Professional Hypnotherapist podcast.
Hello, how are we?
And Karl, you have the reputation of being a very practical, down-to-earth guy, but at the same time, I would probably describe you as one of hypnotherapist's gentlemen. But before we get to that, who is Karl Smith?
So, thanks very much for having me on, and hello to everybody. For those people who haven't bumped into me before, my name's Karl Smith. I'm based over in the UK, but I tend to don't see myself as a UK hypnotist. I'm more of an international hypnotist. I work all over the world. The long story short about condensing Karl Smith is that I served 12 years in the British Army, went to all the places that your holiday representative definitely won't send you to. I've been to some beautiful places and some horrendous places. I've seen the best and the worst of humanity during that time. I did the 12 years and I'd had enough of seeing things that that nobody should really go through. I did my 12 years. I was in Iraq on the Monday. It was pre-planned, by the way. I need to let people know that this has been a year-long process. But to give people an idea, on the Monday, I was in Iraq in Qasr and Basra. And then on Thursday, I was flown back to the UK. I dekitted on the Friday. And then on the Sunday, I joined the police. So, and that comes in really important later on because of my experience with trauma. So I did 12 years, and then I joined the police on the Sunday, so I had no time off whatsoever to decompress, and joined a UK police force, and then went into counter-terrorism, firearms, counter-terrorism policing, all of that type of stuff over in the UK. And then I got heavily involved in what's called post-incident. So if ever you see an incident in the United Kingdom that involves either shootings, death in custody, taser, road traffic collisions, I'm still heavily involved in all of that. So that's called post-incident management.
Right.
And
Okay.
yes, I was dealing with all of that. And I still do to this day, even though I'm not in the job being technical word for police, even though I'm not in the police, I still work for charities in the background that support those people that have been through those processes. But I did another 12 years in the police. But during my time in the police, unfortunately, I got run over by a drink driver, a DUI for those in the Americas, a DUI or a drunk driver, drink driver. He reversed over me, drove over me, broke my legs, broke my arms, done some damage to my back, fractured my cheekbone, fractured my skull, left me in a really bad way. I did. So after all those times of being in dangerous scenarios, when I got run over, I was actually in my own house. He actually went through the front of our house and into our next door neighbour's house. So I'd been to all of these torn places, but they actually get run over in my own front room, which is quite
Yeah.
hard, really.
Yeah.
But
Difficult.
so I went on the steady recovery of trying to fix my body, and when my body fixed, that was really good. My body healed. Even to this day, I've still got. That was 2006, and still to this day, I've still got a problem with my Achilles. But the problem, but to be quite honest, it's workable. But the problem that came was when I was physically injured and some of the listeners will understand this. When I was physically injured, I was put on a drug called tramadol, which is a high level painkiller, zones you out, completely zones you out.
Right.
What happened is that the physical pain had sorted itself out. The physical part of me for sorted itself out, but the tramadol had kept down what we would then now call, because post-trauma is now a very fashionable word to use. Back then in 2006, even though it's not that long ago, it wasn't that fashionable. Post-trauma, roughly around about then, it was being subdued by the drugs. As I started to peel off of the drugs because of that, then that's when the trauma kicked in. And then all of a sudden I started using Jack Daniels and more tramadol to keep the naughty noises down. So in a nutshell, in a few moments, that condenses the best part of 24 years of service in the military and in the police. But I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And I have to say that if I hadn't have been run over that day, I probably wouldn't be sat here now and traveling the world and doing what I do, So
Yes.
I
Yes.
always, and the one message I do give to listeners is that I firmly believe that day, even though it was the worst day of my life, became the best day of my life. So, that's my storyline. That's where I came from. I'm not, when I'm working with trauma and I'm working with because I predominantly work with post-trauma, especially those in the military and emergency services, because that's my background. But when I'm dealing with it, I'm coming from a point of view, coming back to what you say about being just pragmatic and just getting on with it. That's what those people are.
Yeah.
They're not interested. And I think you heard me when we were talking when I was in Dublin. People are not interested in my qualifications. And I know that to some people that's very important. And I want to get people to understand getting properly qualified is very, very important. But your client getting that skill set off of a good trainer is really important.
Yeah.
But my clients are not interested in that. They're interested, can you do it? And that's where I kick in. That's where I am. I'm very hands-on, very pragmatic, and very much, I take away the science. I know some people love the science and they love to spout out big words, but and talk about this enzyme and that protein causes this synapsis, but your client's not interested. They want to know, can you do it? That's the,
exactly. And it's about problem solving.
Yeah, absolutely.
And easing the pain and or hopefully getting rid of the pain.
Yeah. I mean, I do that. That is quite interesting actually, because I did a session last week, but where I started off on one track doing one thing, at the end of the session, I realized that I'd done phantom limb pain by accident. We didn't realize that via Zoom, this guy was actually, he came to me for trauma, but he failed to mention on the Zoom session that he didn't have any legs.
Right.
And at the end of it, he didn't have no phantom limb pain left. I'd removed all of it by accident. So, it's those powerful moments there that I love. That's the bit there. That's what makes me tick. I love that bit there.
Yeah. And as I say, we're problem solving, but you yourself, you had a lot of issues as a result of the trauma. So what happened? How did you solve those? Why go to hypnotherapy?
So the police force I was in at the time I mean, we have to go back. It's very fashionable now. Mental health is a fashionable thing. Either to have mental health issues or to be a mental health practitioner is very fashionable. And for some people that have been in this, I mean, I've been in this for 15 years now. I've been doing this 15 years, not as long as anybody, but even still, I remember when it wasn't fashionable to do this. So the police force I was in wasn't really geared up. They were like, oh, we've got some counselling services over there. So they sent me on a telephone counselling service. And it's really important that I identify why and how I got here and why I'm so passionate. And whatever I say has got nothing to do with CBT or counselling per se, because they have got an important role. They're just not for everybody. But the counselling element was forced down my neck. Oh, you have to go to counselling. You have to go to counselling. That is the only thing that will work. Counselling is the only thing that will work. So they ran that down my neck. That didn't work. Then they sent me to cognitive behavioral therapy, and that didn't work. That, in fact, I have to say, CBT made me worse. And for those people that are listening, I'm not knocking, by the way, I'm just reiterating, I'm not knocking that there are some brilliant practitioners out there in counselling and CBT. And I'm not saying that they don't work. I'm just saying that they are not a one size fits all. And that's what we tend to find with organizations. They try to push it. So coming back on track, I had this hypnosis. I had the counselling, I had the CBT, and they made me suicidal. And what happened was that I tried taking my life one night. I tried jumping off of there's a very large bridge down the road from here, about a 300-foot drop. And I decided to throw myself over the side of it with a load of tramadol and Jack Daniels in it. But when I went over the side, I landed on the only part that had scaffolding on it. Can you believe it? Anyway, so I landed on that, and then I was dragged over the side by two colleagues. And my colleagues at the time, police officers, realized how much trouble I was in. So they informed a police officer that did NLP and hypnosis. And it was only because of that night that hypnosis and NLP got involved. And he came along and he said, right, let's have a look and see if hypnosis is any good to you. And I was like, what? I'm from a place called Great Yarmouth, which used to be the second largest holiday resort in Great Britain on the East Coast. Lovely part, beautiful, Northern Broads, all that type of stuff. But and this is really important that people understand this, is that my only point of reference to hypnosis was a stage hypnotist in Great Yarmouth, because that's what it was. But Ben came along and he said, no, 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 no. And he educated me. And really, really, really important, your listeners understand this, that you educate your clients on what you do, because they will have that frame mind, that frame set of, oh, he's going to make me do something stupid. And people will do that still to this day. And, it's about education. And Ben educated me about hypnosis. And he said, here, let's have a go at it. And he did it. And in that first, I would say 30 seconds, I would say, coming back to what I said at the beginning about the compression, about me not decompressing when I came back from Iraq, came out, and it came out like a thunderbolt. And I mean, I physically felt it. I physically and emotionally had it come through my body. And I was like, what the? And it was nothing I'd ever experienced before in my life. I said, what fucking just happened then? He went, well, your body's just letting go of all the pressure and attention.
Yeah.
And when I talk about hypnosis nowadays, I always talk about it as though we are a big pressure cooker. And it always takes me back to that first ever session. Whenever I talk about it, always takes me back to that, keeps me grounded in some way. Some people may not think that, but I am very grounded when it comes to it. In the way that the pressure cooker that day, it felt like somebody had grabbed a valve and gone,
yeah.
And that experience, that thing that happened that day, whatever that was the catalyst for an animal being unleashed. And that's where I get my passion, my drive, and and my love for this profession, really, and that's why I get to do a lot of things, and that's how it all came about. And I can't get stress enough to some of your viewers and some of the people out there. I'm very heavy on YouTube, probably one of the most heaviest people, apart from David Schneider, in our profession, on being on YouTube all the time. And it's not just about sales. Let's be honest about it. Yes, it is about sales and keeping myself in the forefront. But actually, part of me, it's about educating the public on what we do. Yes, I'm promoting a product. I'm a business person first. I'm a marketeer second. I'm a hypnotherapist third. But on the same token, getting that message across and showing muggles, let's say muggles, people who have no idea about what we do. They don't understand our magic. They don't have that skill set. It's about me educating people. So when people say to me, oh, I don't believe in that hypnosis, the first thing I do is go, well, there's over 750 videos there for you to go watch. 750 people can't be lying to you, and it's that part there. And that's the bit where I get the energy. That's where I get the, educating people about how great this is, because what you have to be an ambassador. A lot of people forget that. I am an ambassador in some ways, not just for post-trauma, relieving post-trauma, but for hypnosis itself.
Yeah.
And if some of the therapists stop chasing techniques and started educating and doing things, I think that they would be far more, they'd get more business, for starters, because they're educating the mass, instead of a minority. So that's where the driver comes from. That's where I am. That's where I sit.
Very interesting. Now you mentioned you're an ex-forces guy, and you've done a lot of work with military, police, etc. What is the perception in terms of, breaking down that barrier, or indeed, is there a barrier when you mention the word hypnosis when it comes to working with, government agencies and such? What's your experience of that?
Yeah, so it's a big thing. So I was classed up to secret level, and in the secret, what's called DV vetting in the United Kingdom, what's called developed vetting is one of the processes you go through. You have to tell them everything about everything. And when I mean everything, you tell them everything about your lifestyle. And they go through everything. They go through your phone, they go through your internet history, it goes down to nano stuff. And part of being DV vetted is you can't be hypnotized. So the environment I used to come from, the secret background that I was from, that sounds really like 007, but actually it just meant that I was near things or could hear things that could, potentially cause damage to country or governments or whatever. But anyway, the point being is that, so in that environment there, I was very limited. When I went to police forces, they embraced it. When I went to ambulance services, they embraced it. When I went to fire, they embraced it as well, because they didn't have that certain level of security vetting. But after a while, we started to realize that we didn't call it hypnosis. That was one key thing. Not calling it hypnosis does get you a lot of things. Now, I picked up government contracts to with my mental welfare pack. What we did there is that I have my hypnotic masterminds, which is my hypnosis group, my hypnosis thing. And then what I then is I have another thing called the mental welfare coach. The mental welfare coach was born out of not using the word hypnosis. Believe it or not, the mental welfare coach is actually the same products as I sell in hypnosis, just repackaged differently. Except there's no hypnosis in there. All the paperwork's been changed. Everything's been changed, because when I picked up the government contracts to go to like Dublin, I went to Dublin. I've been to Shannon to go deliver stuff over there as well. I've been to Belfast as well. I've been all over Europe delivering it. When I mentioned hypnosis, they shut the door. And I was very lucky, because I knew somebody that went, you know why, don't you? And I said, no. And they said, because you've used the word hypnosis. So when we changed it, that's when it opened the floodgates. Sometimes you have to tweak yourself. Sometimes you have to change what you're doing to fit what it is. And the mental welfare coach itself was born out of that, because governments do not like the word hypnosis. And police forces embraced it more. So did fire, so did AMBO. And actually, when I did that, it then opened up corridors for like training Hong Kong police, New York police, LAPD, all of that, and fire departments all over the world, and going on presentations. The 9/11, what is the name of it? Right, for the firefighters, the police, everyone that was there, the first responders. So I've done presentations for them before, and so sometimes the word hypnosis can be a powerful tool. Yeah. And then on the other hand, it can absolutely hamstring you. It can really hamstring you. And it depends where you are, really. I mean, I'm looking at governmental, massive corporate organizations that don't want that word. The other thing as well is cultural. In America and Canada, they don't care. They really don't care, because a cultural thing is that as they grow up, they are brought up with hypnosis, school proms and everything like that. Whereas over this side of the pond, we're very much still cautious about it. It's not in our forefront. It's not in front of our mind.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, in your work, which is quite comprehensive, you do what might be called content-free hypnosis. Tell us about that.
So content-free hypnosis is technically right. I need to explain it properly, and then it'll make sense. I don't do consultations the usual way that some people would do them. I do not sit my clients down and I do not ask them what they think, and that's very important, what they think the problem is. Because fundamentally, whether we like it or not, the issue is never the issue. If somebody comes to you with anxiety, it's not actually anxiety that the problem is. It's something that's causing it. So the issue.
Excellent point. Yeah.
Right. So it's the same thinking as weight loss. Eating food, and the weight loss, and stop smoking. Cigarettes are not the problem. It's something else that's the issue in the background. It's not the cigarette, it's the problem in the background. It's not the food that's the problem, it's the problem in the background. So that's where and I'm not the first person to talk about the issue is never the issue. So I work about the mindset, the issue is never the issue. And also coming back to what I said previously about decompression. I firmly believe that trauma is an accumulation of stress, not a single point. I firmly believe that my car accident was not the cause of trauma in my life. It was the catalyst for my body to go, I've had enough. I've had enough of this. I can't do it anymore. So I used to many years ago go for I've got a fear of spiders, and come out some fandangly little technique and fandabby does it away. My objective is to deal with the whole lot in the background rather than the one thing. Right. So content-free hypnosis. If you imagine your body's like a big pressure cooker, we've got the fight, flight, freeze at the bottom. Great stuff. Fight, flight, freeze. Fight, we verbally or physically fight things. Flight, we run away. Freeze, we curl into a ball and hope it disappears. Fawn, I don't bother with. And just bearing in mind, if I talk to you, I'm talking to you as a client, so I'm trying to simplify things so they understand it. So we've got the pressure cooker. When your client comes in and they verbalize and they think they know what it is, it's very much not the thing. My job is to use the subconscious, unconscious, monkey brain, whatever you want to call it this week, and ask it directly, what do you think the problem is? Or what is the problem? So when I'm working content free, the only thing that I will ever ask people are hypnosis contraindications. And this is vitally important. When I say I don't do a consultation, the only consultation I do is to find out if somebody's schizophrenic, bipolar, personality disorders, narcolepsy, any psychosis issues, or anything of serious ilk like that. That's the only consultation I do. The next phase is to drop somebody into hypnosis and then literally allow their subconscious, unconscious to relieve it. Now, the important point is that my talk about the pressure cooker is built into the pre-talk, the preamble before. So already I've given a pre-suggestion that they're going to act like a pressure cooker. When I'm working content free, it allows the subconscious, unconscious monkey brain to do whatever it wants to do, let go of what it knows is the problem, not what we're thinking the problem is. And that's where I'm getting all of my results. All of my results are content free. The moment I let people have a cathartic 5-minute release if they need to, but I don't sit there for long. Because I know for a fact that 99% of what's coming out of that client's mouth is going to be bullshit. It's not their fault. They're trying to fathom it out. They're trying to figure out where they're going. And it's all well and good them saying, I've got anxiety and I've got this and I've got that. That's brilliant. It gives me a clear line of direction. But I will say out loud, I actually do fucking ignore it. I really do ignore what's going on. Because once I've got them into hypnosis and I open up that cavern, the subconscious, unconscious will just throw things out. And it's really important that people understand that when people come in, especially on my sessions, they'll be sitting there going, where did that come from? That happened nearly 30 years ago. I didn't even think of that. Because that, whatever that is that's been compressed inside there, they probably can't verbalize it. They probably haven't got the system to bring it to the forefront. And it's probably been negated and pushed to the back. But actually, it was causing a fundamental problem with the fight, flight, freeze. So working content free is so much better. And the other benefit for it as well, but predominantly when I'm working with military and emergency services personnel, when I first came back from Kosovo in 1999, which was ethnic cleansing on a mass scale that I've never seen before. When we came back, if you'd have said to me, Karl, can you explain to me how it felt standing? I'm not going to do it because you get vicarious trauma, but I can impart in vicarious trauma by talking about certain things that I've seen and witnessed, which is vitally important I have to keep in mind, is that if somebody said, tell me about that and tell me about how it felt when you saw this, that was trauma. I could smell it, I could taste it, I could hear it, everything was overwhelming. And when I went to counseling in the CBT, they did the same thing with me. They did identically the same thing. Tell me what it was like there. Explain how you felt. I don't want to explain that. And one of the other things as well, let me just come back to this, is that during one of my counseling sessions after the car accident, one of the counselors said to me, how did it feel to get run over? Nobody ever wants to go through telling anyone that. With content free, I don't need to go through any of the historical past. I don't have to get them to regurgitate, spit out, or anything like that, because it comes up as a metaphor, as a journey. And if you look at it as that pressure cooker, as just some of that stuff that's coming out, that's how content free works. And when we look at, I developed a system called emotional detox. Anyone can go watch it. It's on YouTube. You can go watch my feelings, images, thoughts, emotions, sensations. I think you were there when I did a demo in Dublin. Yes. I think you were there. And that there, letting go of feelings, images, thoughts, emotions, and sensations you've held onto over the past few weeks, the past months, the past few years. it allows, it's so ambiguous that the subconscious goes, oh, you want me to do that, do you? And it lets go of however it feels. And the reason that I came about that is actually down to Dave Ellman, right? And well, not actually Dave Ellman, but Cheryl Ellman and Larry Ellman.
Yeah.
And I love them to bits. If Cheryl ever listens to this, she knows what she's like a mum to me. I know Cheryl very, very, very well. I've spent lots of time all over the world with Larry and Cheryl, and I love them dearly. But one day Cheryl did something in the United Kingdom that made me go, this isn't right. This isn't right, which sent me down a path of going content free. She said to me, just imagine you're on a beach. Just imagine you're on a beach. And I was going, can't get it. I just can't get it. Just imagine you've got the sand between your feet. Well, I come back to when I was born in Great Yarmouth. I lived on the beach all my life. And there's one thing I can't stand is a fucking beach. I can't stand the sand in my sandwiches, in my toes, in my ice cream. I can't stand it, right? So what made me, and it wasn't Cheryl's fault, but Cheryl was a catalyst to a good thing. I'm not sitting here banging Cheryl. But what happened was that she started a process that day of me going, this isn't working for me. Why is it not working for me? Is it me? Am I stupid? Am I fucking, am I wrong? Can I not do this? I've done it before. I'm on the trainers package with them in Denmark. And I'm going, why is this not working? And I was just thinking, she's not hitting my buttons. She's not doing it. This is a way that's been done for years and years and years and years and years. And they're teaching it that way. Love them to bits. Works a treat for a lot of people, but not everybody. No. When I introduce the feelings, the image, go to somewhere that allows you to go wherever you want to go at the start of my process, go to a mystical place, a magical place, a powerful place. That opens up the imagination. We are hypnotists. We work within the realms of imagination. So let's fire up the imagination. Let's open up the imagination. Go to a mystical place, a magical place, a powerful place, not a beach, not a wood. Let's go somewhere where you want to go. Yeah. Funny enough, when I started playing around with this, I started realizing that my favorite place is somewhere where I'm from, and it's not too far. It's only about it's a lighthouse where I'm from in Galston in Great Yarmouth. I don't know why, but I seem to end up at that bloody lighthouse. And if I go into hypnosis, but I would have never have known that if I hadn't have gone down this being ambiguous route. Yeah. And that's where it really started. And then when I started pulling that apart and then started going, well, hang on a minute, what we're looking at? We're looking at feelings, we're looking at images, we're looking at thoughts, looking at emotions and sensations. Because I always go back to whenever I go into hypnosis and I release, I'm very kinesthetic. I feel it. I don't know what it is. I just know something's happening. So when I put that feelings, images, thoughts, emotions, sensations together, but actually it wasn't in that order, I then realized it was fights for life. And I know it's not spelt right, but it's still fights, which is quite a nice little acronym to remember for the fights in life. Let go of any of those fights, the feelings, the images, the thoughts, the emotions, the sensations. And when you do that and you add that ambiguity, you add that, open up the imagination, then add a little bit of let go of these feelings, images, thoughts, emotions, sensations that you've held on to over the past few weeks, the past few months, the past few years. When you add those three together, you have a very special moment where the client is doing what they want to do, how they choose to do it on their terms, and allowing to let go of what they want to at that moment in time, rather than being prescriptive and trying to force them to do something that may not well be the right way. Yeah. So I came away from traditional hypnotherapy and hypnosis. I came away from that traditional stuff. And I'm very vocal on hypnosis scripts. Most people know that I think they're a cop-out. I think that at the end of the day, a script is designed for one person, a therapist. It doesn't matter how much you try to engineer it, it is designed for the therapist. And when you listen to people, it gives people structure, the therapist structure. It gives people words, the therapist words. And that's where I sit with that. When you actually simplify hypnosis, which hypnosis is, it is very simple, made hard by idiots. When you simplify hypnosis, it actually becomes more powerful. It's when the idiots are trying to market something and I've got a brand new technique this week. Well, you know as well as I do, Aidan, you know as well as I do, there is nothing new in this profession. Oh. Everything's regurgitated, everything's come round and everything's fired up. It's all come from there. And I would strongly suggest that a lot of my work comes from Ericksonian, Ellman,
Yeah.
and a massive shit from where I've learned around the world. But on the same token, it's about letting the client dictate the scenario, not me trying to force feed them. And that's what I'm on about scripts. When you sit there doing this, you're not reading. If you're reading a piece of paper, you're not reading the client. It's as simple as that. So
100%. Yeah.
that's why when people see me go on one, it's because you're not advertising yourself. You're not advertising the profession as well as you could do. And your trainers have let you down. And we have to be honest, there's unscrupulous bastards out there. They don't give a shit. They're just after your money. They want to cane people and they just want to take their money and run. We know that. That's every profession. We know that in this profession as well.
Yeah.
And I come from a point of being passionate about what we do. And it comes back to that ambassadorial role. So when I see people, not the students, but when I see trainers fucking it up for everybody else, that's when I get upset, because this is a powerful tool. This saved my life. Hypnosis saved my life. I am one of those people who will stand on a hilltop and say that hypnosis is the best thing since sliced bread. But when you see people that are degrading and they're taking it apart and ruining it just for financial gain, I get a little bit arsy about it, because there's thousands of lives that could be saved. There's thousands of people that can be supported, but people aren't being trained properly initially.
Yeah.
That's when I start firing in.
Very, very excellent points. I love it. I agree with you, and I think it's important that anyone out there who's contemplating, going to see a hypnotherapist, I think it's important that they know that they don't have to necessarily, or really, they shouldn't have to go through the trauma or be re-traumatized again.
No, there's no necessity. Those days are over. I mean, those days died when Sick Man Freud, he passed away, Sigmund Freud and all of those type of things. That, don't get me wrong, the foundations and they've got things there, but going through that, and you don't need to. I actually found that a lot of people in the military and emergency services, just having a good cathartic, some people may not like this, but a very black or dark conversation and humorizing it and turn it into, we in the military and the emergency services have a way, or it's now being condoned, but there is and it's not being disrespectful to anybody that's passed away or done anything like that or been seriously injured, but there is a dark humor that flows, and it is a coping mechanism. Sometimes a good cup of tea and a shits and giggle conversation can actually alleviate a lot of problems. But people don't see that. It's human. It's human nature. In a Western world, we're actually, crucifying people for doing that nowadays, but even still, it was a great way of doing it. Some people may disagree, but I know that sometimes that just sitting down and having a good conversation and a cup of tea can actually just be as good as sending somebody to 6 counseling sessions, because you're actually
being present.
Yeah, just being there and just having a conversation and I think because of my background, it's far better for me, because if somebody military walks in this door now, it doesn't matter who they are, whether they were. I've worked with Gardaí before. I've worked with Hong Kong police before. We all have the same sense of humour. And I go like, "Oh, why didn't you want to join a proper police force?" Or if a soldier walks in here, the other day there was a video, a trauma video that I did, and all I knew is he was a Coldstream Guard. For those who don't know what Coldstream Guard is, they're the ones in the bright red with the big bear skins on the roof. They're called. And I just sat there, I'd only known the man 45 seconds and I was already giving him shit. But the thing is that because of that mutual thing, because of that, of that knowledge and that there, I know the nicknames. I know what they're called, the wooden tops and all that lot. And, they don't like being called a donkey walloper, a donkey walloper is the ones you see sitting on the horses at Horse Guards Parade. They're called donkey wallopers. And Coldstream Guards normally get called that. They're not. They're two massive different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you sit there and go, "Oh, so how long was your donkey walloper for?" They're like, "I want a fucking donkey walloper. I fucking don't." But the crack is there. That's that rapport building, for want of a better word. It's that I've been in your shoes and I know the language and I know the lingo. Same as with police, fire and ambo. When you're talking like that. We all talk in acronyms. We all talk in a different code. And when you breach that code, then you're in. And I find that as soon as I breach that code, especially with military and emergency services personnel, actually 3/4 of my work's done.
Yeah. So what you're getting at here is rapport, building strong rapport.
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily need rapport, but being in that mindset of them knowing I was one of them and I've come out the other side is massive.
Yeah.
You know, that part of what you went through, all that shit.
Yeah.
You were like me, because let's get it. Let's, you know, if we look at military and emergency services as well, you know, and men are the worst for it. Men are the worst. Once you show that you've got a weakness, like I showed that I became an alcoholic, I became a drug user, and I was fucking horrid to my family. I was never physically horrible, but I was a fucking piece of shit. I spoke to them like shit, but it wasn't Karl. It wasn't Karl that was
Yeah.
talking. It was the trauma, the build-up, the frustration, the fucking that pressure cooker had built up so much that I'd become a horrible piece of work. It went till that pressure was relieved, that literally that it was there. But when I show that and I talk about that weakness, and I show about how I was down there, and you don't need to stiff up a lip, old, you know, you don't need to stiff up a lip. I mean, you know, when I was in the military, if you ever went to, I've seen some of the worst atrocious things in my life. And the British Army way of dealing with it was give you a crate of lager. You know, drink that, lads, knock 10 buckets of fuck out of each other. When you're done, we're going out again. That's exactly what it was. You know, having that showing somebody weakness was, you never did it. So it was very weird for me to get my head around the fact I had to show weakness to these people and educate them. It's perfectly all right. It's perfectly fine to be in a shit state. It's perfectly fine to be an alcoholic. It's perfectly fine to be a drug addict. At the moment, we can change that. We can change that. You know, this is nothing that's not, we can solve this. I was that. Not necessarily just in life in general, just showing people that you know, that it was shit and that you can grow from it. And that's why I would say, what I said at the very beginning, the worst day of my life became the best day of my life. And I always tell that story because it's really vitally important that people understand that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Because when you are at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, you just don't think there's any more light. You just think you've been consumed by darkness. And I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be at the bottom and not know. And that's why I'm very keen on people educating people, because there's people out there that need your listeners' help, but your therapists are so that the people that listen to this podcast are so buried in the next new technique, right? They're looking for the next new technique that they're not educating people about the power of what they've already got. You know, there's some therapists out there that listen to this are only 4 weeks into the game going, well, what am I going to offer? Actually, you offer an enormous amount. You've already got a skill set more than the person that's looking for your skills. It doesn't matter. Time in service does not mean anything to me. You know, if you've got 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, you still have a skill set. Educate people, show them what they can do, what you can do, and show them how they can come from that as well. And I think that's vitally important. I think the other thing that I like stressing as well is that especially for therapists, they love jumping. And here's a top tip for everyone who's listening. If I was ever to give a top tip to anyone, is stop chasing courses, stop chasing the next new course, and stop being a master of that next new course. You know, how many times have you seen it where people go on a pain relief course? They're a master in pain relief. Then the next week they're on a weight loss course. And then all of a sudden they're a master in that. I firmly believe if you put passion before profit, you will succeed in this profession better than anything else. And what I mean by that is if from here, trauma, when somebody says I'm dealing with trauma and anxiety, my little ears go boink, they go up in the air, and I'm like, yes, right, trauma. I'm like a little spaniel that's just found a duck. I'm like that. I'm off all over it. And it makes me happy because I know that I'm going to make some impact. If somebody says, oh, you've got a weight loss package coming up, I sit there and I feel like I'm dying inside, because my passion is with trauma. If those people that are listening right now or watching right now are honest with themselves, if they're really, really honest with themselves, and they go back to the reason that they came into this profession, depression, anxiety, trauma, domestic violence, sexual abuse, and they're able to talk about it openly and freely without getting upset, become an ambassador for that. not the next new course. If they become an ambassador for that and tell their story, their hero's journey, if they tell that journey, there is millions of people out there that have got that going on at the moment that are at the bottom of the pile while the therapist is up here. You know, they've got that skill set. And if they tell that story and show you can survive, you can thrive, then that's where it all comes in, and that's where it all ties together. And you know, and I think the other top tip that I wanted to give people just before we go is that stop being a village idiot, be a global asset, not a village arsehole. And what I mean by that is that Zoom and other technologies and stuff like that, get out of your villages. Zoom is so powerful for me. You know, before we went on air today, I've been in, not literally, but I've had sessions in Sweden and Germany, and I've got another one tonight in LA. Zoom is the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, you know, when we first started 15, 20 years ago, I remember when I bought a website called Skype Hypnotist, and I was doing it back then. I was doing Skype hypnosis back then. But I really do think that therapists heavily rely on their village or their little town to give them business when it's a global audience.
Yes.
And if you take those bits I've just given you as well about being an ambassador in what you're doing and use Zoom, you'll have a global business rather than a village business. And that's when it comes in. That's when the confidence kicks in. Zoom is vital to everything that I do.
Yeah. You come across, and you mentioned compassion, but you come across as somebody, as a therapist who cares. Is that what, would you agree with that?
Oh, I do. I care immensely about the profession, and I really do. When people come in and they've got stuff, there's nothing better than watching people going out, you know, far in a better position than what they are.
Yeah.
And I love it. And when people come in, you know, there's no two ways about it. What we do is theatre. This is theatre. You know, what we do is, these techniques are all bullshit. They are all bullshit, right? And what was it Melissa Tears once said? This shit's all made up. It is all made up, right? You can sit there and teach people to rub the end of their nose. You can sit there and teach people to rub the end of their nose and tell them there's a meridian in there, and they'll get rid of their anxiety. It's all theatre. And I think that when people go out and they've had an experience, that's vitally important. When people leave me, it's an experience, not a therapy session. It's an experience. Something fucking happened. And let me come back to that first day that Karl got hypnotized by Ben. It goes back to that moment. I sat in that chair and I felt all this shit come out of my body. And it was a physical experience. There was an experience there. So when people leave me, I love that. When people are sitting there going, what the fuck just happened then? Because it is a massive experience. It is let's not forget what hypnosis is: belief and expectation. That's all hypnosis is. You can write it up, you can do whatever you like, you can write big books on it, but it's belief and expectation. Do they believe you, and do they expect something to happen? If they believe you through my YouTube channel, they believe me, and do they expect something to happen, and it happens, it will happen. And that's one of the key things there. And a lot of people miss out on that. They do really, really miss out on that. They miss out on that, that theatre. You know, if you act like a damp dishcloth in a chair, you're going to get damp dishcloth results. That's as simple as that. If you get out of your chair, energize yourself up and play the role, because this is what it is. We're actors. Fucking whether you like it or not, we're fucking actors. It's theatre. And if you add that little bit of energy, that little bit of this can happen and that can happen and then this, that's when the magic happens. And a lot of people are taught to sit down. And this is why laying down and sitting down. Don't get me wrong. I would strongly suggest that 70% of my clients are standing when I'm working with them, 30% are sitting. Most of my work's done stood up. Most of my work's done stood up.
The belief in expectancy, that is so important.
Massive.
And I think that I think the onus of responsibility is upon the hypnotherapist to build that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it comes back to the education. If you look at my YouTube channel, I can guarantee you now, right? A lot of people sit there. I don't believe in hypnosis inductions. Hypnosis inductions are just theatre. They're just, if my client isn't in hypnosis by the time I get to that hypnosis induction, I've done something wrong. My pre-talk and my preamble are the most important parts of hypnosis. Doing this or doing this or doing this, that's just theatre. That's just the cherry on the cake. They're not a necessity. They're there just to add and compound the belief and expectation that something's going to happen. Most people believe that they should have it, but they don't really need it. If you do your pre-talk and your preamble right, you should start to see that fascination. You should start to see that glaze in their eyes prior to getting to the induction. That's the trick. The induction is not a necessity. The amount of times that I sit there and people just sit there just looking at me because they've watched my YouTube channel. Another thing as well, talking about how powerful YouTube is. Bearing in mind, you'll go to YouTube today. All the people that are on it today, flick through YouTube. Their kids will be on YouTube.
Yeah.
The second biggest search engine in the world. Not many therapists use it. One of the key things is when people come to me, is that I send them a video. So when I go, in a moment, we're going to go to hypnosis. There's a point I go, in a moment, we're going to go to hypnosis. And they, all of a sudden, all my clients do that. I've already built it in.
Yes.
By the time that they come to me, they've walked in the door or they've clicked on the Zoom, they're already gone. They've already gone.
Yes.
I don't even have to bother. I really genuinely don't. And if you build that into if those people that are struggling with your inductions at the moment, don't worry about the induction. It's bullshit. It's rubbish. I've done street hypnosis, stage hypnosis, and clinical hypnotherapy, for want of a better word, around this world in some of the most weirdest places on the planet, in Fremont Street in Las Vegas, to New York, to in the middle of London, to Melbourne. I've done it all. One of the key things is that pre-talk, that bit at the beginning, using the word hypnosis, 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 hypnosis as many times as you can prior to you going like that. Yeah. Because that's just bullshit. The inductions, you know, it's like Maggie Fingers. People say, why do you always use Maggie Fingers? Well, I don't really, it's just a tool. It's not, I don't need any of this stuff anymore. I don't need any of the stiff arms. They're brilliant. They're theatre. They're brilliant. They get crowds when I'm doing street and stuff, but they don't actually fulfill a purpose. They don't do anything.
Not only are you a busy hypnotherapist, but you also have a very busy hypnotherapy school, and you educate quite a lot of people. So anyone interested in learning the Karl Smith method, how can they do that?
So if they go to my YouTube channel, which is Hypnotic Masterminds, or they join me on Facebook on Hypnotic Masterminds, or go to the website Hypnotic Masterminds, they can get me there as well. So so Hypnotic Masterminds, you'll get me on all of those. But for those people who want to get a feel for content-free hypnosis that we were just talking about, for a better explanation and to watch me do it, there's hundreds of videos. There's hundreds of videos of me doing it on there. For those people who want to formally train with me, as in come to the classroom here or anywhere I'm in the world, then go to Hypnotic Masterminds, and you can either train online or you can come into the classroom with me. It's one of those things, but if you type in Hypnotic Masterminds, you'll find me.
Well, that was a fascinating talk we had, and thank you so much for the benefit of your experience. I didn't have to do much talking myself. But I appreciate you being very forthcoming and imparting your knowledge and your experience and the stories you told us, which are very, very helpful, I'm sure, to a lot of people watching and listening. Karl Smith, thank you so much for joining me today on the Professional Hypnotherapist podcast.